Lynda, welcome, and thank you for joining us this evening. You're doing some wonderful work in Rathgar, and I'd love you to tell us a little bit about that and how your experience has been the last few weeks.
Yeah, I set up Rathgar Community Connect about a year ago to run a street feast. I'm from Dublin originally, and I came from Green Hills, Walkinstown area, and very strong community down there. I've lived in Rathgar for the last 9 years, and I haven't felt the same kind of sense of community here around the area. So I just wanted to try to change that a bit by getting people to connect and talk to each other. When this all kicked off, I kind of thought I could use the same platform to help those in need around the area, and also give people around the area an outlet to help, because a lot of people are feeling very helpless and don't really know what to do with their time and want to do something to give back. And actually the biggest response, I got two types of calls at like 8 in the morning. I got phone calls from people, from elderly people that probably been waiting since 6 o'clock to ring me to say thanks and to look for a bit of help for shopping. And then I got calls in the evening, kind of 7 o'clock, from people that wanted to volunteer. And we've actually built it up to a WhatsApp group with about 100 volunteers in it now. We basically set up some subgroups. We had a dog walking group, which has 27 people in it, which we haven't had one request for. We have a shopping group with 50 people in it, and that's fairly busy. That keeps busy most days. We have an elderly outreach group where we have 10 people that ring people back once a week to check in with them to see if they're okay, just have a chat. And then we've also been working with the guards and various organizations around doing kind of ad hoc stuff. I suppose the first thing that I found difficult was people taking it at face value. So one of the first things I started to do was try to legitimize the organization by contacting the guards, by contacting our public health nurses. We got the heads of all our churches onto the WhatsApp group that are in the area, and the different religious organizations. We are working with the chemists as well, and also the manager in our local SuperValu. So that was the first thing to get people to endorse us, pretty much. We gave the guards some of our leaflets and they were handing them out. So people started to kind of say, okay, this isn't some randomer just sticking something in my door, I can trust this. And then the other challenge that we had is that people feel that they don't deserve help. We have a lot of people who would be elderly, inverted commas, but would be very fit and, you know, fitter than me probably, and they would be out and about all the time. And for the first 2 weeks we had, you know, oh, thanks a million, but I'm fine. And then we had the cocooning guidelines, and all of a sudden these people felt very embarrassed or different kind of reaction, but they had to then start contacting us to do their shopping. And I think that remains a challenge, that people are finding it difficult to reach out. And certainly when I've been talking to other volunteer groups in Dublin 12 and Dublin 6, that's a common theme, that they're not getting a huge amount of calls. Now, what I would say is that's indicative of the fact that a lot of neighbours are looking after people, which is fantastic. A lot of families have stepped up. I looked after my 82-year-old aunt for years, and all of a sudden all her nieces and nephews are contacting her, which they wouldn't have in the last couple of years. So that kind of stuff is very heartening and it's great. But yeah, I think there are the two main challenges, but people have been absolutely fantastic. Like we had a thing yesterday, we actually delivered out 101 roast dinners and desserts out to all the elderly around the neighbourhood, because somebody on our group used to be a caterer and wanted to do something, and somebody else was a pastry chef, so we just hooked them up, and all our guys said, yeah, we'll deliver them. And the way we organised that, we actually got people to deliver to people that lived on their road, so that they could put a face to a name to somebody that lived very close to them, as opposed to getting a random leaflet in or